In war areas as a freelance photographer, shooting for different journalism publications, and since then has shifted to cinematography, where he uses the lens to produce beautiful film. Rather than hear me tell you about him, let's bring him up to share part of his story. Please help me in giving him a warm Creative Mornings welcome, Jared Moossy.
Hi. Nice to see all of y'all. Thank y'all for coming. Yeah, so of course I had something written out that I read, to myself a dozen times. I had something totally planned, and I'm just gonna wing it. So yeah, reverie, the idea or the daydreaming, that moment that we have in life that feels so great. That's hard to get out of, right? I remember, I don't know why I say I remember it. I was in a perfect time in my life, or it felt perfect. I was consistent with work, and as a freelancer, maybe y'all understand. I was able to turn down jobs for the first time. I was, consistent. I was working on this book, traveling around the United States, photographing. I wanted to photograph every state I wanted to photograph every state, but I was taking motorcycle trips to all the different states. And I got to 38 out of the 50. And on September 3rd, 2015, it was a beautiful day. I rode over to my friend's house who was moving away. Been a best friend, like a brother to me. So I got to have a good goodbye night, It was awesome. And me and my fiance at the time, we left right at magic hour. And if y'all know magic hour, it's that beautiful golden, So it was a beautiful night. She was following me in her car because I was on my motorcycle, and got about a mile and a half from my house, roughly. And the next thing I remember was waking up in a room all white with tubes coming out of me, and I was in pretty bad shape. I was hit head on by a drunk driver, and we were both going roughly 60 miles an hour, and I wasn't wearing a helmet. I was in a coma for about a month. I had 23 broken bones, 17 surgeries, and the doctors started to think that I would come back. A few months later, my brain started to work again, and I had to relearn everything that we teach our children. The alphabet, how to cook, how to use the restroom, how to walk, all of that stuff. It was really intense. And for, I would say, the first 5 or 6 years, I pretended to accept what happened, or I said I did, but I wasn't at all. I'm still having difficulty with it at times. With not only having to learn the basic human functions like reading and all of that, I had to relearn who I was, or who I am now. When I woke up out of the coma, I was told that I was speaking Spanish, and they had to bring someone in to translate for me. And I didn't know anybody. I didn't know who I was with, or who was around, or who was in my life. I didn't know anything. And through coming or going through all that process, it had me really wanting to accept my situation, because I knew that, or I didn't know that it would make me stronger and help me, but I understand that now. At the time, it was really fucking hard. I was a tatted up war photographer, traveled around the world, going to the craziest, most dangerous places, taking pictures for work. I mean, it's kind of crazy. And has me question, who I am now, if I could never go back to doing the type of work I was doing before, and who I wanted to be, and all that sort of internal struggle that we all kind of have. So then that has me question whether reverie is real, or whether the dream is real, or what's real, and it's kind of hard for me to explain it in ways that others will really understand, unless you've been through anything similar to what I've gone through. You can try and empathize, you can listen, but you'll never understand. I thought I really understood the strength and importance of life and what it was to have it. I'd seen dozens of people die in front of me, friends, family. I thought I understood what life is. And I didn't know anything. I don't think any of us really know anything other than the reverie that we get to experience. So I'm going to play a slideshow. This is a book. This is the book I was working on. I haven't shown it to anybody. I just finished the layout a couple of days ago, and I'm going to start trying to push it for sale here pretty soon, or try and get someone to publish it. And yeah, that should give you something to look at while you have to listen to me mumble. If you can't tell, I am really nervous up here. Okay, so all this book was all taken with either like a Holga camera or my X-Pan, which is a panoramic 35 millimeter camera. And it's all like 35 millimeter, exposed, or expired film. The ones that are cut in half, that's supposed to be 2 pages. So yeah, acceptance is a choice that we all have in common, which is something that I think isn't stressed enough. We're constantly talking about our differences and how we're all individuals and have our own lives, and everything that we have is different. And that's true for the most part, but at the same time, something we all have in common is the choice to accept. And it's much easier to make that choice about someone else than it is for yourself. I would say 95% of me accepts what happened and who I am. And I'm extremely lucky. I'm extremely, extremely lucky to be able to stand here and communicate, and talk to y'all, and remember that I'm talking to y'all, and see that I'm talking to y'all, and stand talking to y'all. Something that I recognize and do at least 5 or 6 times a day is understand how fortunate I am to do the little things that we can do, like to tie your shoes. y'all don't understand how fucking hard it is to tie your shoes. When one of your thumbs doesn't work anymore, and you're trying to use these two fingers to do this kind of movement, or buttoning your shirt, y'all don't fucking know. I mean, it's incredibly challenging. And it has me feel so weak saying that, and coming from a guy that was willing to stand up to whoever else who went to crazy, dangerous places and did all kinds of stupid stuff. Accepting feeling weak was hard. But I am accepting that now. I had so much written down that I planned to say. About my accident, the first 3 months, I don't really remember anything. My memory was so short for the first 6 months after the accident that when I was going through physical rehab, I was able to go from having to use a wheelchair to walking without a cane in 3 weeks. That's because my memory was so short, I'd be in pain. The doctors said they would turn around, count to 10, turn back around. I'd be willing to do it again because I forgot that I just done it. So my memory, my loss of memory, helped me so much. Because if I could remember all the pain that I was going through at that time, I mean, my right leg alone was broken 13 times. Both my hips were broken. All my front teeth are fake. This is all shattered, head to toe. I had arteries busted out. Had 75 to 85% other people's blood in me. It was the worst it can get, kind of. And yeah, to be here now and able to hold this microphone and talk to y'all, and I'm accepting that life is good and that we should all make sure that we appreciate what we have and not to focus on what we don't have. I know that for the first, I want to say, year after my mind started working again, I can remember saying every day, I can remember saying, I feel 100% like myself again. And my now ex-wife would look at me and shake her head, kind of in a nice kind of way. And I can only imagine what was going through her head. Because I look back at that time now, and holy shit, I was not. Or I wasn't who I was before. Understanding the fragility of life and the luck that we have to get to experience it is something that I hope my talk helps people think about a little bit more. It was really hard and depressing for a long time. I've never been a depressive person. I've always been a get up and go get it kind of guy. And for almost a year, I was hoping I wouldn't wake up every day. And I had no thoughts of actually doing it to myself, but I was really hoping that I wouldn't have to wake up the next day and deal with the agony of accepting what happened. If it wasn't for art, I think I would still be in that same place. So photographs to me are journal entries. So when the accident happened, to regain my memory, because I'd been a professional photographer for over 15 years, I went through a million photographs. And it brought so much back, like almost everything. Almost, I think. And I started taking Polaroid pictures every day, once a day, for my journal, for the journal entry. So I now have almost 8 years of daily Polaroids of normally places I wake up, but moments of the day that will trigger something. Because if my mind ever does go again, I could have the photographs. Something that I knew that when I first started photography, learning what a photograph was and what it could do for the world and for the people, I thought I really understood, or I did understand, but using it the way that I did has me want to teach it to everybody. Like, y'all should all be taking pictures every day with your phone and looking at them, not just put them on a hard drive, but look at them. Because most of us only have one time in this life. Cherish it, because it's good for you. It's good to feel healthy and happy and whole. And even if you only have one of those, it still feels good. So that has me question what reverie really means, because it's a word that I didn't really know before this. And the only time that I feel like I've been able to experience that or have experienced that was pre-accident, because the last 8 years have been a fucking struggle. Yeah, and so then, to me, that just, because it was another life ago, or that's why I say I was reborn. And because it was another life ago, it has me question the reality of those moments, or of those times. Because I don't feel like I've had the time to just sit back and daydream. I was either sitting back and having nightmares, or totally stressed out trying to figure out how to keep living. But today feels like a daydream. That's nice. I feel some reverie today. I was really nervous, but y'all helped me feel comfortable talking to y'all. All right. So yeah, the art is what kept my mind in a positive forward movement. For those of y'all that are artists, which could be anything from painting to cooking to cleaning to whatever, y'all understand the healthy meditation that you get when creating that art, and the overwhelming joy and excitement you get creating it. Like, whether anyone sees it or not, when you're done, you feel good. And whether it's good or not doesn't matter, because you feel good. And it also doesn't matter because everyone's different and they all have their own opinions on what's good and not. But yeah, so about a year and a half after my accident, I made a movie for Time magazine. I had worked for them handfuls of times as a photographer and doing some video work for them. And when the accident happened, or around that time period, I called a friend of mine who I had worked for when working for Time and asked him if he'd help reteach me on how to do like an interview kind of thing, because I wanted to share to the world that I was doing better. When my accident happened, there were some big fundraisers that were created in the photo community and in the tattoo community, because the guy that hit me was uninsured, and both me and then my fiance were out of work. She was taking care of me, and fundraisers were created to help, support. So I wanted to make a video to say thank you, and I wanted to make a video so they could see, not just read it, but they could see what they did helped. And that day, my friend had a meeting with the editor at Time, told her about it, and she said, why don't y'all make a movie and have Jared not just be the subject, but also have him be one of the creators. I agreed. We made a film. It was the first time Time magazine ever aired anything in a theater, or premiered anything in a theater. And I premiered it at the State Theater here in town, and invited all the doctors and nurses and people in the rehab and whatnot to come to see it, because it was a big thank you. And won a Webby for it, and just won some awards, and did pretty good. And that was another healthy experience, although it was really challenging because I was then going back and reliving all the drama that happened before. But yeah, art is the lifeline, I think, for a lot of us. I know it is for me. If it hadn't been for art, I don't know that I would have gone through high school. That was my thing. I didn't go to college. Well, I didn't start going to college. I moved to Austin, started building houses, built houses for 10 years, met some chick who was moving to New York, went up to visit her, saw that Parsons School of Design had their senior show on Fifth Avenue, and I was like, how cool would that be to go to school there? So I applied for painting, because that's what I did. I thought I was really good, and didn't get in. But I applied for photography, and they gave me almost a full scholarship. And I was like, okay, fuck it, I guess I'll move to New York and learn to be a photographer. And then from there, I got an internship, had to our junior year to graduate, so I got an internship with someone I didn't know. Turned out to be a pretty well-renowned war photographer. And I got excited looking at his work and places he was going, because I love traveling. I would build a house from start to finish, and when I finish, I would just travel until I ran out of money. I'd come home, do it again. I did that for 12 years. And so I loved traveling. And some of the places that I was seeing in his work or his books, I knew the only places I'd be able to see and experience those places is if I wore a bulletproof vest and went into it. So in between my junior and senior year, I got online, bought a bulletproof vest and a helmet, and I flew to Afghanistan. I gave the Army a fake note saying that I was getting published through Time. And they let me come do some missions with them. And so I spent 5 months running around with the Army doing crazy stuff. Decided I liked it, and went back over Christmas, graduated, and within 2 weeks I was back over there. Spent 3 years over there. It was amazing. Most beautiful place I've ever seen. And my experience there was before the anti-American mentality was going on. They were so happy that the Americans were there and got the Taliban out. So I hitchhiked around the country for 2 months by myself, just in local cars, and just I was smoking hash and opium with people in the craziest places, and just it was fine. It was totally safe. I definitely, it was an amazing experience. And that is what got me into doing video. Before, when I was doing just stills, I got hired to do a 4-part documentary television series. And they hired me based off of my photographs. They thought they would work good in motion. So they hired me to do that, and it ran on HBO. And then from then on, I just started getting video work. yeah, I'm so thankful and happy that I have been given the opportunity and the chance to get that kind of lifestyle going again. Still working on it, but starting to get going again. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions?
I just want to thank you because even though we talked at length before this, I didn't realize how vulnerable and brave you need to be up here and to tell the story that you just told and to reveal so much of yourself. So help me thank Jared again. We'll say 3 questions. I see one hand that went up immediately, so would you mind standing up and asking your question?
So I really appreciate your story. Thank you very much for sharing. And I also appreciate your story about photography. I didn't quite experience the highs that you did with it, but it's amazing. So my question is this. When we all look at our phones all the time, is it hard to do reverie these days?
Yeah, I think that's really individual, right? I do think that looking at our phones 1,000 times a day takes some of that away, for sure. But because it is individual, that might be someone's way of getting into the reverie. You know, because the reverie doesn't have to be some dreamlike state that we're in where we close our eyes and we're like, oh yeah, life's great. It could just be those moments where we're able to relax and enjoy the present. Because that's all we have in life, right? The present that we're in. We've had the past. We hope for the future. All we have is the moment we're in. And I state that with like straight down, like it's literally all we have. Because I know that in less than a second, mine was taken away by unknown sources. I mean, really, just enjoy it. And so if you can get your reverie through looking at your phone or through watching TV or playing music or laying in a hammock or whatever it is, be appreciative and that you can recognize that you're in that moment. Yeah.
Yeah, 2 more. Harry, you first.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you so much for sharing today, and wow, what an amazing story. I'm really curious to know, I imagine that when you had to relearn everything, photography was a big part of that. And I'm wondering, like, did your style change or your process change, like, before and after your accident?
Yeah. My style at first changed quite a bit. When I was in high school, I was wanting to experiment with every type of art form that existed. I painted, drew, watercolor, whatever. And after my accident, I felt like I went back into my teenage years and thought that everything had to be totally perfect and pretty and have like this certain style to it, and that everything had to be unique. And so the first job I had actually was doing a documentary that involved some artists that created Meow Wolf. And I got to go to Meow Wolf. They closed the building off for me, so I had it totally to myself for almost a day. And I thought I made the most amazing footage. And it looked like shit. And that's mainly because I was treating it like a photographer, where I was just like click, 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 and not thinking that every frame has to hold for at least 30 seconds. And so I would take, 100 video clips in a minute and think that I got something good. And I was adding like flare and color and stuff to every frame. Luckily that has, I came to tuition that has dropped out a little bit, but something I did take from that is, those of y'all that know photography, you understand the depth of field. And I always shoot really shallow depth of field. And so I created these filters where I got sheets of copper and I cut them in really thin strips, and then I bent and twisted them and created like a lens mount hood to them so they go right up against the glass. And so they just create like a color, and when the light hits it, it creates a flare. And so they're great for that like second, that one shot that you want them for. It's great for that. When I did the Meow Wolf thing, I shot almost everything with like interviews and everything. It was stupid. Like the people that hired me contacted me and were like, "What the fuck did you do?" But I still take some of that from that. And I think aside from that, like my framing and my approach, I don't think it's changed. I think that pre-accident, I was better at confronting the subject or communicating with the subject to create more relaxation. And I think I'm still good at that, but from what I can remember, I was really good at it. And I won lots of awards, did all kinds of cool shit. Like I was doing good at it. And I think I'm getting good at it again. I think it's coming back. Or I know it's coming back, but So I think, my style changed a little bit, but in a way it didn't, because I was following the same kind of path I did when I was first starting to become an artist in high school, where I was just experimenting with everything and couldn't make up my mind on what I liked, and I was a teenager again.
Do you ride again? Did you get back on your bike? And then did you speak Spanish before you came out of California?
Yes, I did speak Spanish before. I was maybe a little bit more fluent before, because I was also spending more time in the South. And I do ride again. If I could remember the accident, I probably wouldn't. If I could remember the pain and the rehab and all that stuff, I probably wouldn't ride again. But because I don't. I do. I just got a bike a couple years ago, so I waited 5 years. It's a Harley Night Train, it's actually really similar to the bike I got hit on. So I had this bike that I had custom built from all the way. I traveled all around the world, or all around the States on it. Like it was my beauty, it was my thing. And I didn't want to ride again until I rode something similar to get that kind of experience of like what my bike felt like. And I found somebody that was selling their bike that had a Springer front end and was willing to let me just give them a monthly payment and not pay it like straight off upright, because I didn't have 15 grand, and he'd even let me borrow his trailer to drive it home. And when I first got on it, I rode maybe less than a mile. All I did was go around the big neighborhood or whatever. And holy shit, it was like muscle memory. I was able to do it, but fucking A, it was scary as shit. And if you want to see my movie that I talked about making for time, I have cards or you can go on my website and send me, and I'll send you the link to the password. Or maybe I'll just make it public today. Yeah.